Okay. We're going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to talk about what just happened.
Well, yeah, I mean,
no, we're not even
song.
going to introduce it. You and I have to talk about what just happened that I saw and the listeners obviously couldn't.
True.
So Jess, would you like to explain what happened, or would you like me to describe it?
Well, Ben, I mean, I'm not even sure what you're talking about, so maybe you should start.
Okay, great. A peek behind the curtain, just to let you know, like when a theme or a tune, when a theme or a tune plays, like that's playing live. Like I'm not editing it in later, so we hear it.
Yeah, we have the Quest Orchestra playing it.
We have the Quest Orchestra, and so Jess has his like streamer lights on behind him, like which are like are those the Govies? You got the Govies back there?
I've got whatever the cheapest thing Amazon
Those are the
has.
Govies. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
So, usually, and we both see each other on camera. This is not a video podcast, but we see each other on camera. And we make faces, and we try to make each other break, and all of that. And so usually there's a little bit of a dance break while that theme plays. And Jess decided to turn his streamer color changing LED lights behind him into like dance party mode, and then just started like going nuts back there. And, what's up?
I was just feeling it.
You
tonight.
felt it?
I'm feeling it. Yeah, I mean that theme song, Ben. That theme song is immaculate.
Every week you feel a little bit more.
That's right. But I mean, yeah, it's Quest, the adventure game podcast. I'm Jess.
Wow, you took it all. You ate. You left no crumbs.
I ate. Yes.
I'm Ben. I'm PS_Garrick on on Twitch and YouTube.
I'm TCAF Jedi on those places as well.
How you doing, Jess? We just, we were supposed to start recording like 40 minutes ago, and then we just had a very spirited conversation before it. So we're both coming into this pretty warm.
We're coming in pretty hot. I mean, here's the thing, Ben. I did make a mistake before we began podcasting.
I knew you made a mistake, and I was going to chastise you live on the air about it.
Oh, man.
But you tell me what this mistake was.
Well, we like to talk about cookies here on Quest,
right.
the adventure game podcast.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, like just seconds before we turned on the cameras, I crammed my face with like 4 Fig Newtons.
4 Fig Newtons.
Which are too dry for podcasting.
Way too dry.
Too dry. I've drank like 40 ounces of water since we started talking, and I still feel parched. I'm going to have to lay out of most of this recording. You're really going to have to shoulder the burden here, Ben.
Okay. Here's my question for you, Jess, which is now and you could choose to plead the fourth on this.
The right to privacy?
What's the incrimination one?
The
Professor?
fifth.
Oh,
the fifth.
All right. Okay. Well, I was just testing you, Professor.
Very good.
And also I was doing that for the benefit of our international listeners.
Who haven't had a chance to learn the U.S. Constitution yet.
Who are not familiar with the beautiful Bill of Rights afforded to every American. Now
everyone.
Yeah.
Equally.
Now, so I was gonna plead the first, and
just say whatever you want to. That's so please
Jess,
ask away.
In what configuration did you eat these Fig Newtons? Was it one at a time, or was it different?
It was 2 at a time. I ate 2 Fig Newtons at a time.
I had a feeling it was 2 at a time.
How do you? I mean, like, yes, but how?
Yes. What do you mean? But how?
I mean, how do you know that? Is that a standard way to eat Fig Newtons? They're too dry to eat one at a time.
I don't eat Fig Newtons. I don't care for a Fig Newton.
Well, I made a horrible. These are generic ones too.
These
And
are these Aldi?
they're Aldi. And
Uh,
like an Oreo, which we talked about extensively last
yeah,
episode, you can't recreate a Fig Newton unless you are, you know, Mr. Newton himself, Sir Isaac
yeah.
Newton, the inventor of the Fig
A
Newton.
fig landed on his head, and he
Yeah, and
discovered gravity.
it was no figment of his imagination. It was quite real.
Uh, I'll let that one go. Wait, hold on. Let's see. What did the studio audience think?
Oh man. They
But
always I wish I had a soundboard that I could make laugh for me.
yeah, well, if you listened to my previous podcast, that was a frequent complaint of my co-hosts that I was the
and,
only one with the access to the soundboard.
and probably
And
in your next podcast, this might come up as well.
oh yeah, no, I'm a freak with it. I like on the Last Best Babylon 5 podcast, I was a monster with
Mhm.
the soundboard. I was cruel with it. But on Aldi, which for those of you who are not familiar, is like a grocery store, which is like kind of like the budget one. And has a lot of their own like kind of store brands that are like kind of cheaper. You know, they their store brands are like kind of a roll of the dice, and some of them I think are like a B+ version, which is good enough. Like they'll
Absolutely.
have they have plenty of stuff that is like good enough, especially given like the absolute cost difference.
Mhm.
Like you know, this is grocery talk. Uh, and they have some good treats. You know, I've catered a party with Aldi.
Absolutely.
They've got
Oh,
a
if you
lot
need
of like.
cheeses and meats,
I was gonna say I'll get those their little like lunch meats rounding a little like mozzarella stick.
oh yeah,
Like I'll get that. It looks classy and it costs like $6.
it's packed with protein.
It's packed with protein, and that's what we need. We all need
Yeah,
protein.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you are not getting enough protein, you're never gonna bulk up.
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking I gotta bulk. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need the bulk.
Well, that's why, Ben, you should try Athletic Greens, a great supplement that you can. Wait, we aren't being paid by them, are we?
No, but I think what we should do is just do free advertising until one of them takes pity on us.
Yes.
You know,
And like gives us back pay for all the great work we've done.
yeah.
Mhm.
You know, like, you know, if you just seem pathetic enough, eventually you'll get exactly what you want.
That's worked for me.
Yeah. All right, Jess. Pop quiz. All 10 of the Bill of Rights amendments.
Okay,
Go.
got it.
Bang.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th.
Oh fuck! I really thought you were gonna say 11 in there accidentally.
Well, they leave out 4, which was the inspiration for Leisure Suit Larry, leaving out the 4th game.
Oh.
Yeah, so the 4th Amendment that you mentioned earlier actually doesn't exist.
We have an email this week. It is from Todd.
Hello, Todd.
Has Todd sent us? Is Todd? Oh yes, Todd has a Todd, as you may recall, is our friend who has an iPod.
Yes.
Remember iPod Todd? We didn't call him iPod Todd.
But now we have, at least one of us has, Ben.
Do you think that Todd is called iPod Todd at his place of work?
No. Right, unless he works at the iPod factory.
Well, I don't think there is an iPod factory anymore.
Yeah, not with these tariffs.
Yeah. Wasn't there... Oh, remember that guy that, like, made up that whole one-man show and then, like, and it went on This American Life and he had to apologize about it?
Yes.
Remember this?
Vaguely.
This is like, I don't, like he went to the, like, iPod factory and he just made up all this shit about their conditions. Which are probably not great. Like
they're probably abhorrent. You don't need to make it up. Yeah.
but this
Ben,
guy.
what Todd have to say?
Todd said, "Hi, hey, Questerinos.
All right.
I was curious if either of you have messed around with Renault's wonderful Quest for Glory randomizer. Since Spielberg is like a second home to me, I think the randomizer is my preferred way to play now. The updates to customize the play experience have made it even better. Maybe that would be a good way to mix them up on your next stream. We have said that we are going to return to it. Also was curious if you think any other adventure game randomizer would work. KQ1 might come close to workable, but might still be a little short. Thanks, Todd, aka Average Goon. P.S. _Derek. To the listener who wanted a co-op game, well, calling it an adventure game would be a stretch. I highly recommend Spiritfarer. It's narrative-driven, has zero combat, and has lovely music and a great story that may hit hard if you dealt with grief or aging parents. There's crafting and some platforming, but nothing challenging. I loved it solo, and I know it has co-op.
Oh, thank you for the recommendation.
I have not played. It wasn't Spiritfarer on Game Pass for a while. I don't know if it still is.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
I seem to recall seeing it on Game Pass. Anyway,
But,
I have not played that, but the randomizer, I've never played it. Have you?
I've watched some speedrunners play around with it a little bit, but I've never played it myself. So I'm familiar with sort of what it does in terms of, swapping things around a little bit. But I'm fascinated by the randomizer concept. Like, I think probably the game that I'm most familiar with is like Legend of Zelda randomizers.
Right. Do you want to explain what the randomizer does for anyone listening?
Yeah, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I only kind of know about this secondhand. It moves around the location of some key items and some things like that, right? Isn't that the main thrust of it?
Yeah, so I'm reading it. I'm on it's on GitHub. If you just it's on GitHub as QFG-1 or QFG1 randomizer. And this program will randomize the location of most items in Quest for Glory 1 EGA. It accomplishes this by generating script / text patch files that the game will load instead of the default resources. As a result, the original game files are not modified, so it's easy to restore the game to its original state. Only the EGA version is currently supported. Sorry, VGA fans. Also, you must be running version 1.2, the version that you would have bought on Steam or GOG. So if you if you play the Heroes Quest version. But yeah, so like, yeah, it jumbles some stuff around. I've never played it. I've been very Quest for Glory 1 randomizer curious for the same reason as iPod Todd is saying. I hope that isn't mean. I'm like, I just heard like a cadence and it's fun. But like, I'm a VGA, like a Quest for Glory 1 VGA guy. And so like Spielberg is like a second home, like, and I think that's a lot of what we talked about when we played, when we talked about it in our earlier podcast on Quest for Glory 1. And I know Quest for Glory 1 back to front, but only the VGA version. I've actually not spent a lot of time with the EGA version, which I probably should. Like, that's what I'm going to play when I play it, like when we do revisit it for the stream, and maybe it will kind of be like a brand new experience or like kind of a different one.
Yeah.
But Jess, I think that might be fun for you when you stream it. Like,
it could be, because the EGA version is my version of Quest for Glory 1.
Right.
So I'm very at home there already. I'm looking at this. Apparently it like randomizes up to 71 item locations. Like there can be anything in the bird's nest in front of the Hiller's hut. Baba Yaga could be up there. Like, Flying Water could be up there somehow.
finding the healer's ring, which is like the first thing I do when I
Uh-huh.
play Quest for Glory 1, because it gets you some money, kind of gets you started. She gives you some healing potions too.
It also feels like a very level 1 quest
Yeah,
in a campaign,
absolutely.
you know?
Like doing that, and then um that would I like that would really make the game really interesting. It just gives you something extra to kind of explore, and like, because that's something I've always kind of wanted with Quest for Glory 1, is I want a reason to make it a little fresh. I would love it if there was like DLC of Quest for Glory 1. Like, here's
Why
a
is nobody
second
at
quest.
Sierra working on that?
Yeah, could somebody call up Ken and
Yeah,
ask
what's
him,
yeah.
what
Somebody
is
send
Ken up
like a
to?
flare up so he can see it from his yacht and yeah,
But
come to shore to pick up a phone call.
so yeah, like, I'd be really interested. I think that might be fun when you play it. Like,
I might try that.
yeah,
I'm
it
curious.
might be fun. I'm
I'm
not.
curious how breakable it is. Like, is it possible that like I pull down what you get a mirror at the end of the game to use against Baba Yaga? Like, what if that mirror is in the bird's nest? Can I just go kill Baba Yaga immediately?
That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Or does that break the game at that point? Like, I wonder if it is somewhat like proofed against like unwinnable situations, or you've just broken the flow of the game completely. I have no idea. This is what I may Ben.
We should probably ask,
I'm
because we
going to.
definitely have people in our Discord that have the answers to
Oh yeah,
this.
that's right. And I think I might try. I might try the randomizer. I think Todd has a good suggestion there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Todd's second question there, which is, what games what other games would be fun with a randomizer? I think he's on the right path
Mm-hmm.
with King's Quest 1, because it's like, I think with treasure hunt games like
Yes.
King's Quest 1, like, because King's Quest 1 is this big, like, it's not huge, but it's essentially an open world.
With
Um
some freedom to solve puzzles in the order you prefer.
right. And so, like, King's Quest 1 would be like a really good one, because yeah, like, it's like, all right, well, the dagger isn't in, like, the dagger isn't in that hole. Like, there's all sorts of stuff. Like, there's a lot of King's Quest 1 and 2, for that matter. Like, there's stuff that is just like kind of hidden in a hole, or like in a log,
Mm-hmm.
or like whatever. And so I think King's Quest 1 is a really good option for a randomizer. You would have to, like, whoever, did it would have to put like some stuff in to make sure that you don't like lock in players. But
Yes.
like, because now I'm just like, all right, well, what other games kind of have like that treasure hunt aspect? Because as you said, like, it's like with the Legend of Zelda games, like Link to the Past, I think, is like the major randomizer
Mm-hmm.
game, and Super Metroid. Those are both games where like you're running around like a large open space, and like you're getting stuff, and in like Link to the Past, it's like, oh, where you thought like the boomerang or whatever
Mm-hmm.
is like, now it's some other thing.
I
Like,
feel like a Maniac Mansion randomizer could
oh,
work really
Maniac
well.
Mansion would be good.
I was trying to think of LucasArts games that would fit for it, and that's one that I mean, already Legend of Kyrandia is just a big old weird randomizer,
Yeah,
and that's terrible. I mean, I suppose it might be interesting. I mean, maybe this exists and I'm just not aware of it. I feel
yeah.
like in maybe a Zork style game,
That
you
was
could
that
play
was
with
my
that.
next thing.
I
Colossal
almost
Cave,
wonder if you could
absolutely.
get away with some degree of like procedurally generating something like that, in a simple dungeon crawl type treasure collector.
Yeah. Um,
Just have Chat GPT do it.
I can't even ironically suggest that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't feel good as soon as I said it.
But like, yeah, like a colossal cave, or a like, so, and you could say the new colossal cave, like the
Hmm.
remake, which I played on my stream and I had a very fun time, honestly. I did it in VR, which was actually quite cool.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was like, I didn't think it was like the greatest game I've ever played or anything. I thought it was like a cute little trifle, which is kind
I
of
think
the
what it's
vibe they were going
supposed to
for.
be, yeah, that
Like, just
feels,
kind of like a fun little thing.
yeah.
Not everything has to be like Gabriel Knight 1. Like, it's, not like, or Gabriel Knight 2.
How about Gabriel Knight 3?
Um, no, just one or two.
Okay.
But uh anyway, like, yeah, I mean,
Maniac Mansion would definitely work for it. I
Maniac
mean,
Mansion
it's a game with just stuff laying around places.
it's also a game where already you're dealing with like a bunch of different scenarios based off of like the characters that
Mhm.
you select. So already now, like, whatever your strategy is going to be, because like you're like, oh, I always play with Bernard and Sid. Now, like, it's like, all that shit's gonna be moved around and mixed up. How about, because it's like, you it has to, I think, for a randomizer to work, it has to be like kind of a big open space. So it's like for LucasArts stuff, you'd want to think all of the LucasArts games, like at a point, like have that like the middle of the game where you're in like a big open space,
Mhm.
and like you have three tasks that you can kind of do in any order. So it's like Monkey Island 2, you could probably conceivably do something like that with.
Yeah. But with Monkey Island, feel like it's so woven
It's
into the
so
story.
story.
Because I was thinking it's like the Monkey Island section of Secret of Monkey Island
Yep.
might work, but then it's like, I don't know if the banana picker isn't in the cannibal's hut.
Yeah.
It sort of breaks the whole story of interacting with them, and it creates this weird sort of butterfly effect
Yeah.
where the game's
Um
full of butterflies.
it's like, like Sam and Max has that opens like the middle, like all the
Hmm.
LucasArts games have like a big open middle segment.
But very few of them just have the like, here's something laying on the ground that you need to
Right.
go pick up and give to somebody, which like that's the King's Quest 1, King's Quest 2 kind of vibe, right? That's
Yeah.
what makes them so perfect. And Quest for Glory, I feel like has a little bit of that as well. So I mean, I'd imagine you could randomize Quest for Glory 2. Maybe that's already out there as well. I have no idea. But no,
I
this
don't
is
think so.
interesting. I should experiment with that. I may, talk to our folks in the Discord and see what I should be prepared to expect with that, and maybe I'll play randomized Quest for Glory 1.
All right. Well, maybe you will, and maybe you'll play that, but I'm not worried about what you're playing. What are you playing now? What have you been playing
Nailed it,
lately?
nailed it. Great seg.
Incredible dismount, tens
Yeah,
all around.
absolutely. Um, Ben, I have recently started playing The Last of Us Part 1, and have really been enjoying it. Now, a lot of you who are longtime listeners may go back to the earlier episodes and know Ben and I raved about The Walking Dead. We love a good zombie apocalypse.
This is why I was shocked that you're enjoying it, because I honestly watched someone like start to play it once, and I was like, nope.
I think the fact that I've watched the show. I've never played The Last of
So
Us
you
before.
watched the show though?
I've watched the show.
Okay.
Actually, I assigned it in my class last semester. We watched it as a class and used it as the basis for a lot of our discussion in my Politics of the Undead class. But I think knowing where the story is going because of that makes it less stressful. Because when we talked about Walking Dead, one of the things I said that really got me was like this sort of problem of playing games where there is like a daughter-coded character who is placed in constant peril.
Yeah.
That stresses me out. It makes me uneasy. And sort of Clementine constantly being, on the verge of being eaten by zombies.
Yeah.
Kind of made Walking Dead a stressful experience for me.
Yeah, I'm not even a dad, let alone a dad of like let alone like have like a daughter such as you do, and that was too stressful for me playing Walking Dead.
But I know Last of Us, she has some plot armor just because I've watched enough of the series to know that Ellie is okay. And it's a pretty fantastic game. Like it's beautiful. It's got some really nice acting in the cutscenes, some good voice work, mocap, all that sort of stuff. Honestly, you know, I usually bounce off of AAA games so fast. Even ones I enjoy, I'll play 4 hours of a AAA game, be like, yeah, I know what this is like. That's about enough for me. And so far, I'm really digging it. Last of Us is kind of right up my alley for a genre normally I don't play around with anymore. So yeah.
Do you ever play any of the Uncharted games?
No.
Also by that same developer?
Yeah, I've never done any Naughty Dog game, as far as I know, until now. Yeah, I've never done Uncharted.
I played Uncharted 2 on my PlayStation 3 when it came out, and it was very impressive. Like everyone went nuts for Uncharted 2 when it came out at the time.
Yeah. Cinematic action, right? That's the whole deal.
Yeah, and it's like set piece to set piece to set piece to set piece, and they're all very entertaining. And so I haven't played it since that came out, and then they didn't re-release it to the PC, so I may never know if Uncharted 2 is good. I accidentally bought Uncharted 4 for the PC thinking it was a collection of 1 to 3.
Isn't there a collection now for
There
PC?
it is for the PlayStation.
I thought there was for PC too.
I thought there was as well.
Huh. Well, there you go.
No.
Wow. But no, it's pretty good. It's fun stuff.
I like it. I think if I watched the show, it would disarm that for me too.
It does. It helps a lot. I mean, yeah, it's a big relief because I don't know, just not knowing what's going to happen to Clem at any moment in Walking Dead, just like, oh, it's too much. But Ben, what have you been playing? I bet you haven't been playing Last of Us.
No, I've been dipping back into Dead Cells. The beloved roguelike platformer from 2018. You know, it's just a good game. It's just fun. Have you ever played
Sometimes
Dead
it's
Cells?
just a good game. No.
I don't know. I mean, so I'm not a particularly great, kind of twitchy, difficult platform player.
Yeah.
I'm not good at memorizing a lot of patterns or whatever, but I never got into any of the FromSoft games or anything like that. But for some reason, Dead Cells, and I think I think the reason that everybody's went nuts over Dead Cells. Dead Cells has just really tight feeling controls. It just feels good to play. It looks good. It sounds good. A good roguelike. There's always so even if you're not doing well, there's always that nice kind of drip of new stuff that you're getting by playing it. Dead Cells is just so there are a couple and I have all the DLC for it, and some of the DLC levels I don't like. They don't quite feel as good, but in general, a lot of the weapons and I even parry in the game, and I don't even parry a lot of.
You never parry, Ben. I've been very clear about my beliefs about parrying and blocking in any game. Any moment you're parrying or blocking is a moment you're not currently winning the game. Nobody's ever won by blocking so good.
It's gotten me into parrying. But I will say that I turned on, and it does have a bunch of make this easier options, and one of them is a wider parry zone.
Oh.
So
a wide parry zone, eh?
Yeah, wide parry zone.
Like a William the Refrigerator Perry zone?
Oh yeah, like this backs up that Perry zone. Like god damn. Anyway, this dump truck Perry zone. This milkshake of a Perry zone. God damn.
There you go. You said it, Ben.
Yeah.
The dog pound is erupting.
Yeah. Man, I saw that Perry zone, and I knew it had a piece. Anyway, Dead Cell. Good Perry zones.
Also, Free Cell. Great game as well.
When did you get that one? When did it pop into your head? I'm going to make a Free Cell joke, because it wasn't just then. You had
no, Ben.
Free Cell flew in there, and you were like, "All right, when am I going to say this?"
Honestly, when you said Dead Cell, I had a moment where I was like, "Is that like one of the solitaire games that comes with Windows?" For a second, and it's just been kicking around in my head ever since then.
That just had the feel, and I'm teasing, but only because this is exactly how my brain works.
Mhm.
Is that like you get the joke, and then it's just burning in your head.
I didn't hear a word you said for the last 4 minutes. Yeah,
like,
no,
it's just like when can I
yeah.
it's just gotta
When is Ben gonna be quiet long enough for me to get this short 2-syllable word out?
like it's and then at the end of it, it's like, and I love Dead Cells because it reminds me of my aunt who passed away from cancer, and Free Cells.
I'm sorry, what, Ben?
Free cells.
Yeah,
Solitaire.
I once heard someone say that the secret to good podcasting is active listening, and I don't know what the opposite of active listening is, but that's me as soon as there's like something like that percolating in my head. Like I'm actively trying to drown you out so I don't lose it. So I'd had that one cocked and loaded for a little while.
Because it's just like, well, if I start to pay attention to you, I might forget this incredible joke.
Yeah. I did hear a little bit of the thick Perry zone bit, and it sounded very funny, Ben. The intonation of your voice, whatever it was you were saying, sounded a lot like a joke.
Yeah, like there was a lot of joke sounds,
like cadence
coming
of a joke,
out of my mouth. All right. It's we've been recording now for a bit, so I guess we should probably talk about what the name of this podcast individual title is. We're talking about copy protection.
You love it. You can't get enough of it.
So copy protection, what that was for our younger audience that I'm sure a lot of people who don't know what copy protection is listen to this podcast. But let's say that you were dropped on your head and you forgot. In order to discourage the scourge of piracy, they would put like things that were not contained within the game files themselves. So it would be in like a manual or like something else that came in the box of the game
of some sort,
like a code wheel or whatever. Something and that made it so it's like when you played the game, you had to pull out this thing that came with the box, which if you had illegally copied it or downloaded it from a BBS or whatever,
or a VBS,
what?
Or a VBS, a Vacation Bible School, if you got it there.
Oh yeah, if you got it from the disc trading underground at a Vacation Bible School, like you wouldn't be able to play it. And this was like, what was the game that I think it was like I forget which interview it it was where like it might have been Ken Williams or it might have been Al Lowe or Josh Mandel said it's like they knew that Leisure Suit Larry was their most like one of their most popular games because they sold more like hint books than they sold copies of the game.
Yes.
That was Leisure Suit Larry, right?
Yes, Leisure Suit Larry 1. Yeah, the idea that piracy was rampant enough with that game that supposedly they sold more hint books than they did copies of the game.
That
I,
seems insane to me because it's also Leisure Suit Larry 1, or as our friends across the
mhm,
pond call it, Leisure Suit Larry 1.
yes. Hmm.
Like it's not like in terms of adventure game difficulty, that it isn't
Not the hardest.
like,
No.
especially when you're playing all the other shit that they were putting out.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wondered, that sounds like a really good story
Or maybe like the
that
ratio, you
yeah, maybe
know?
the ratio is much bigger than most of their titles. I can't imagine that's real.
I
I've
would
always thought
think,
that was questionable.
yeah,
I'm putting Al Lowe on blast right
I
now.
am calling that quest questionable.
Yes, it is quest questionable. Trademark that, Ben.
Yeah, I've already put it on an envelope and I am going to mail it to myself tomorrow. Uh
Ben, were you a pirated software family?
am I allowed to say this on the podcast or the Fed's
Statute of
gonna
limitations.
or
Yeah, I mean,
the
you were a minor also.
yeah,
Your parents would go to
and I
prison.
still am a minor. I'm a minor, and also you can't say anything mean to me.
You're just a small being.
I'm just a small bean.
You're just a little guy. It's your birthday.
Yeah, it is my birthday today, and I'm small, and my birthday, but it is not a birthday into being an adult. Now, I'm not going to admit to any crime doing, but I will say that when I backed Hero U twice because they had a second Kickstarter, I backed it extra because I had some residual guilt and I wanted to give the Coles extra money. But maybe it was residual guilt for other
Yeah,
wrongs I might have done to the
for playing
Coles.
as a thief, the morally bankrupt class
Yeah.
in Quest for Glory. Yeah,
Yeah, it was because I played as a thief,
yeah. I
and
mean,
I knew that Lori and Corey thought poorly of me. We mostly we bought most of this stuff,
yeah.
but
I mean, I won't say that I had a lot of pirated software as a kid. I will say we had a lot of the rare limited edition versions of these adventure games that came with the special handwritten labels on them, the very hard to come
oh yeah,
by.
those were really hard to come
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I did like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I'm thinking, I'm kind of looking at my big box collection as I say this. I know I definitely had a pirated copy of Space Quest 2 and 3. Um, I think all of my Leisure Suit Larry games up to 5 were pirated.
did he buy a hint
Uh,
book?
no, no, I wasn't going to contribute to that. I never bought a hint book once. My parents
Wow.
weren't going to pay for a hint book. They paid for a game. You think they're going to pay for a hint book on top of that? The game's supposed to keep me busy. But yeah, no, I don't think I pirated any Quest for Glory, LucasArts games. I may have pirated Monkey Island too. I don't know how I would have with a code wheel situation though, because that's what that code wheel was there to
There
do.
were ways to get around
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I had some software was just cracked,
Yeah,
which is something that used to exist back then.
here's the thing is that actually like I would, this is one of those things where as an adult I'm realizing like I'm putting things together. I would lose manuals all the time, and I just
Hmm.
have a feeling that my dad would just clean up like all the shit on the computer desk by like just throwing it in the trash because I would just be like where'd the manual go? And not be able to play this game that we actually purchased.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing with copy protection. It can lock somebody out wrongly as well. I mean, and there are, of course, like I was thinking about this, some of the early Sierra games like that were on booter discs, some of them actually had like, disc based
Yes.
copy protection where it's just
Yes.
like you simply can't play it if you don't have the original disc.
Right.
It can distinguish a copy, but that's a boring kind of copy protection to talk
We
about. I think
I had to crack games that I actually owned like and had paid my own money for because I couldn't find like the manual or the code wheel. Like
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a sad world to live in. But I mean, yeah, software piracy, of course, was the kind of thing that cut deeply into these companies' profits. You know, it's they claim, there was enough of this going around that they felt like it was impacting their sales. They worked hard to convince us not to copy those floppies.
Mm.
But nevertheless, I got a lot of stolen software as a kid, just through friends, through friends of my parents. Just sort of here's some discs, kid, with some Larry games on them.
So the yeah, and like the thing about like the copy protection is that it was pretty much mostly a floppy disk era thing. Once we entered CDs, largely, not
Hmm.
entirely, but largely, copy protection of this type went away. Now,
Yeah,
of
because
course, oh god,
I was just saying, CD burners
yeah,
were so beyond the reach of the average home user at the beginning of the CD-ROM age. That's
yeah,
like, yeah,
like they were
CD-ROM is
considered
yeah,
an outrageously expensive thing, and then also like because I remember when we got our first CD burner, um, the first ones they'd also take forever to
yeah,
burn a CD. Like I remember by the earlier mid aughts when I had a CD burner on my like college PC, like it would like burn a CD in like 5 minutes or something, and I was like, wow, that's blazingly fast. Um, but I remember like the very first CD burner that we had, um, was like glacially slow. Um, now so that mostly like, and of course, this isn't to say that copy protection stuff stopped existing and doesn't exist today. It's just that the way that it exists today is in like, the securom and all that shit that like just completely destroys the security on your PC
yes,
or whatever. Like,
yeah,
it goes to the kernel
hmm,
level and
yeah.
probably fucks up your computer in all sorts of
Yeah.
ways, and we just tolerate it.
Yeah. Or it just stops being supported properly, like games for Windows, and it just breaks a whole bunch of titles 10 or 12 years after they came out. Yeah, copy protection now, as frustrating as it could be back in the 80s and 90s, it's just as bad in different ways nowadays. Because, I mean, not all copy protections created equally, right? I mean, there's good and bad copy protection. Ben, you
Right.
said that you'd before we started, you said you jotted down
I
some
kind
different
of
kinds of
yeah, I so and this isn't a like manual code wheel feely. This is like how different types of copy protection integrate into different games.
yeah.
And so the very first one I figured we could talk about, and mostly because there's not a lot of discussion to be had about it, is the most basic, which is like straightforward, like normal what's in the manual stuff. And so like the most basic ones would be in like I think of like King's Quest 4.
Third word of the fourth paragraph on the second page.
Yeah, like Day of the Tentacle, where like you kind of fill in like the blueprint. Like again, that's a thing that was only in the disc version. On the CD
Mhm.
version, like so on the Lucas games, on the LucasArts games that had it, when there was a CD version, I think generally all of them, I don't recall if this was across the board, but I think in general, because I think Sam and Max disc had a copy protection. I don't even remember
It
anymore.
did, I believe.
It was like match a thing.
Yeah.
Um
Was it the cutout paper dolls thing that was turned into
yes.
copy protection?
Yeah, I think so.
Or am I imagining that? Oh, I say
Something
that
like,
and that
yeah, I'm
doesn't sound
remembering,
right.
like I have a vague
Yeah.
recollection. But yeah, like so this is the most basic thing. It's like there's a manual, and this was, I think, what you would say was probably the most like standard one, right? Like
Yeah, it's the
the
lowest cost. It doesn't. I mean, you're already printing a manual anyway.
right.
It doesn't require much creativity. It doesn't require an extra feelie to be inserted into the box. It's easy tech, I imagine, to work into your game. Yeah, just ask people to enter a word from the manual. Probably good enough, but also not very charming.
No,
not
and
not diegetic in any way.
I don't
Um,
know if the diegetic stuff is as much as it's like you could also, though I mean with the ones that are better integrated, that still has this problem. But it's like the thing is that I like it is that the limit of that is that someone could just make a text file where they write down like all 20 different
mhm.
like words
Which is
or
what
whatever.
Sierra eventually did when it republished
Yep.
these games in their collections because it's like, well, it's too expensive to include the original manuals. And if we reprint them, with different pagination, it's not going to work either. So we'll just give you a list of all the possible
Yeah,
combinations.
and it was
And
like, I don't know,
yeah,
30, it
y-
wasn't very much.
yeah.
So then the next one I have down here, and these are all kind of like I just have four written down. Um,
Okay.
and so if you have like a difference, is I would say ones that are more kind of story. And so this
Ah,
isn't
yeah.
so the one after this is puzzle, which is
Hmm.
different. I'm saying story. So it's like where the copy protection is like kind of like I think of longbow, conquest of the longbow or conquest of Camelot, where information in the manual is relevant to the story in a way that like you have to complete it. Like it's like you have to
Yes.
know something from the manual, like a bit of lore,
Uh huh.
in order to progress the game. And that is kind of a puzzle, which I'm saying is the next thing. But
But those
I
are
think this is a different. I think this is different.
Yeah, and I would even argue there's a tiny little bit of that even in like the famous Adventures Correspondence School manuals that came with Quest for Glory, where you might get something that feels like a little hint in a monster or a spell description. It may not necessarily be necessary to complete the game. Yeah, Conquest, both of those games actually have information that it would be pretty hard to complete the game if you didn't have the
I
manual
think it's
around.
impossible.
Yeah, I mean, unless you just happen to know hand code,
Yeah, and
which I
like
did going into, but a lot of kids didn't.
all
I
these
use hand
different.
code all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm using hand code right now.
yeah, that's Ben. Put that
I'm.
finger down. That's
T-
rude. But yeah, no, I mean, and I love those manuals. I will say, Conquest of Camelot, Conquest of the Longbow
Great
are
manuals.
amazing. I think I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but in high school, I actually used and cited the Conquest of the Longbow manual in a research paper I did about Robin Hood myths, which I mean, it was a pretty
Did you get a
impressive.
see me on that paper? I'm sorry, Jess. This is too embarrassingly nerdy.
Yeah,
Uh,
one time that didn't happen, but Ben, let me tell you, I did have an adventure game related dispute with an English teacher one time in high
huh.
school.
Yeah.
This English teacher assured me that the second person, as like first person, second person, third person,
Hmm.
that the second person did not exist. There was first person writing, I am doing this, and there's third person writing, this character is doing this.
Uh
And I
huh.
made a strong case that there was absolutely second person writing, which there is.
Yeah. There is
And
second person
yeah,
writing.
no question, this English teacher did. I was clearly smarter than my English teacher, and I was just like dunking all over her left
Yeah.
and right.
Yeah.
But I used the example of like adventure games. Like if it says you are walking through a castle, you see exits to the west and north and east. That's clearly in second person. It is a scribe, and she was like, "That's nonsense, Jess. And video games aren't grammar."
That's right. They aren't.
That's a that's a tough stance. But yeah, those are charming manuals. There's a
The
lot to enjoy about them, but yeah, they're necessary to beat the game. You're going,
Grail Diary in
oh man.
Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. Like again, it's not necessarily a puzzle. Like you need it to identify the
Hmm.
Grail. Because
And I will,
that's a game with randomized stuff.
yes, it is. That's a really good point. And actually, as I was drawing up some notes for this, I had a list of like a short list of what I thought of as like gold standard copy protection. And the Grail Diary from Last Crusade was on my gold standard. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you could just sit down and enjoy reading. I remember, like, as a kid, what I used to love doing when I would get a new game, because I lived pretty far away from my nearest software stores. A lot of times I'd be in the car for 30 minutes, an hour after I got a game before I could get back to my computer and actually play it. And sitting in the back seat of my car, uh, reading through the Grail Diary as I'm rushing home to get a chance to play this game. Oh man, that's good stuff. That's a bit of copy protection that ultimately I didn't mind that much because, oh man, the Grail Diary is such a part of the movie, and it's such a nicely done, sort of attempt to turn that into a game filly.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to the next one, or is there another like kind of story involved one that comes
Those
to
were some of
mind?
the ones that I thought of there as well. I
Mm.
mean, maybe you have a different category for this. I feel like maybe the map in of Shapir in Quest for Glory 2.
Oh, I don't know. That's because that I guess I would call that kind of story involved
It's closer. Yeah, I mean,
because it's not a puzzle.
yeah, exactly. And theoretically, you could get to the money changer with, just a little bit of effort.
Well, you can ask. No, you can ask
Yeah, that's true.
Ali Chico
Uh
because the
huh.
thing is that that's the only actual way that you know how to get there because the locations are
Oh, that's
not
right.
on the
Yeah.
map. Like you
Yeah.
can take a guess looking at the map because there are certain little like
Hmm.
alleys that are little odd turns, and so that like you could probably look at the map of Shapir from Quest for Glory 2 and uh like make a couple educated guesses as to where there are like where the like astrologer is and where wit is, etc. um
Yeah.
but Ellie Chica tells you, like, you can ask him and he tells you how to get there. He's like, go down the street, you take a left, you take another left, you take a right, you go like past. So he tells you, but like it's still a total pain in the ass to navigate in that game without the map. Like
It is. Yeah. It's not a necessity, but it's going to make your life a lot
it's
easier.
a it makes, yeah, it's such a it's so miserable. Um it and I think with these story ones it's kind of fun because it's like in the same way that like a feely is kind of fun, like
Hmm.
it gives you kind of this thing that you're interacting with outside of like your computer, like this thing that you're touching, this map that you're pouring through, this diary.
Yeah.
um so the next thing I had, as I said, is puzzle involved. So that
Gotcha.
would be King's Quest 6, the like the logical steps.
Hmm.
Also, this wasn't said at all at the beginning, but this was inspired. This is a quest from that email from Yop that we received a couple episodes ago. I'm just realizing now. So thank you for giving us this episode idea, Yop.
Yes.
Uh,
We insert that here toward the middle of the podcast to make sure that you're listening all the way through.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's I oh and he had a couple things that he listed off, which is I'll he listed Cliffs of Logic in
Hmm.
King's Quest 6, which is a puzzle. And then a couple of these, which like, so there's the red magnifying glass in the Colonel's Bequest.
Yes, that's one I really like. I kind of had a category of like gimmicks for that one, the magnifying glass where you look at fingerprints and then try to match them on screen. I found that one a little frustrating in the sense that sometimes the on-screen fingerprint
It's tough.
didn't precisely match what you see on the printed.
Right.
I guess it was at the back of a map of the plantation is where all that yellow code window stuff is. I mean, I would say the code wheels from Monkey Island, have that sort of gimmicky vibe, but maybe you have them in a different category. But I kind of love the fingerprints, even if they are a little hard to read.
There's yeah, and that's like kind of like the first category, and then a little bit like it integrates, as you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um uh Yop brings up this game that I have not heard of, uh uh called Black Hawk. The
Mm-mm.
Adventures of Black Hawk, I think this is it.
Never heard of it either.
It came out last year, I think. If this is, I'm looking at the Steam. It has a, looks like this is, I'm gonna send
Interesting.
you I'll put this in our Discord to each other. Um this actually looks kind of interesting.
It does.
It like there's a little bit of it that looks a little bit what's that, like the King Arthur, the Cinemaware,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Defenders. No.
Defender of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
um but then like a lot of it has a very Lucas looking
Yeah.
look.
Definitely. It has a checkpoint just like Last Crusade.
I I was thinking of Monkey Island too.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But Yop says that this game, if this is the correct one, Yop says that it has uh quote, very annoying copy protection to relive the fun past, which prevented me from playing it for more than 5 minutes. I gotta say, that's like, um, you know, I I am curious, kind of want to check that out now. Want to see
Yeah.
what this game that came out last year that has copy protection in it, like as a little like throwback. That's like, like I could see that going either way,
Yeah.
like
Depends on how well it's done. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea. I mean, as someone who
I
made,
love that idea.
yeah, as someone who made a troll game myself, I get the
Yes.
appeal of trolling people with unnecessary copy protection. So yeah, more power to you.
And then
Adventures of the Black Hawk.
Yop also mentioned this game, Shadow of the Comet, which was a game that came out in 1993, and it's quote, it's actually a little cardboard box with a lens in one end and 176 pictures of constellations, many of which look alike at the other. You have to squint into the viewer and identify
Wow.
two of the damn things every time you start the game.
Wow. That's pretty wild. Do you remember I streamed this a few months ago. Did you ever see the copy protection on the Stealth Affair, the John Glames James Bond point and
I
click adventure?
I recall seeing it, but I don't remember
It
specifically
was
what it
like
was.
a big abstract art piece that was also in the manual,
Yes.
and it like had all
Yes,
the
it's coming
colors
back.
stripped out of it,
It's
and it
coming
would like
back.
point to a little segment of this abstract
Yeah,
art
what
piece, like a little
color is this?
swirl or something, and say in our full color manual, what color is this? And oftentimes, like it was unclear what section they were pointing toward,
Right.
and the colors weren't exactly the same on the
If you're
manual versus the script.
colorblind in any
Yeah, it's immediately
way, it's going to
inaccessible.
be totally
Yeah,
inaccessible.
yeah, it was a weird
Fortunately,
one
the
too.
game itself didn't have any, like, that was like the last
Yeah.
time you dealt with anything that was so thoughtless in the design of the
That's the
game.
kind of game that if you don't have the necessary materials for the copy protection, of course, the reason that was good copy protection in theory was nobody had a copier, much less a color copier. It would be impossible to replicate like a 16 color image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's beyond anyone's ability. You have
So
to sit there and meticulously trace it. But the the like good side of that is if you can't get into the game, you don't have to play the stealth affair.
Yeah. Uh, so going back is to the list I have here is puzzle involved. So I said King's Quest 6. I would also say Codename Iceman.
I feel like Police Quest and Codename Iceman fall really neatly into this category. Like this puzzle, almost procedural element where it's like you have to give a girl on the beach some CPR in Codename Iceman.
Oh, I was referring to the part where you have to decode the messages that you
Oh
got.
Lord.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because giving this woman CPR, that's something I would put that more in like kind of story or straightforward.
Yeah, maybe
This
so.
Codename Iceman, and we talked about this extensively with our friend Grayson in that episode, is that Codename Iceman has like this puzzle copy protection, which like so you have to like decode a message that you receive uh and like the information on how to decode it, like or like the code cipher or whatever
Prefixes and yeah.
is in the manual, so you have to kind of go through and kind of go like, okay, so this is this and this is this and this is this, like, and it requires like you're solving something with, so it's kind of like the longbow or Camelot stuff, but it's
Yeah.
more like kind of straightforwardly puzzle forward. There's a puzzle here where like you're doing like a bunch of deduction. It kind of sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but I feel like this is different.
No. And I mean, that's one too. I mean, again, I think part of copy protection, when it goes wrong, it's frustrating. And on that one, like I remember when we streamed this together a few months ago.
Ugh.
Um, you had a walkthrough. We had a copy of the manual. We were working back and forth trying to get these prefixes and codes and everything put in, and we still failed on multiple attempts because it was just frustrating and kind of a pain in the ass to do.
Yep. Yeah, it was just
I
a
mean, that's
total.
bad copy protection. I mean, when you have all the materials necessary, we were legally playing a copy from battledgames.com, BOG. And it was still difficult to complete, which that's bad. That's not good copy protection.
Yeah.
Ben, would you put also something like the spells from King's Quest 3 in this category?
Hmm. Uh,
That's one of my favorite
I
pieces of
don't. I
copy
don't know
protection.
if I
I
call
love it.
that. I would put that more in the story stuff because
More
you're
in the
not really
story.
solving. Like it's just like
Here's
that's because that's more of like a
reproducing.
checklist.
Yeah, it really is.
Uh,
Interesting.
you know, and again, this is all arbitrary. I'm sure like there's at least one or two people listening to this. It's like, Ben, you fucking asshole, you're wrong.
We get a lot of emails like that, and Ben never picks them for our email
Yeah, yeah.
segment.
Would you like to hear the next one I have down?
I would.
Accidental copy protection. There are two games I could think of.
Okay, tell me.
The first one, this is kind of famous. Space Quest 6. This is
Ah,
a game, and I know the story you're going to tell, Jess. Uh, uh, a game where it came out on CD. We're well past the manual copy protection era.
yes. No one
Uh,
is pirating Space Quest 6.
well, yeah, people weren't pirating Space Quest 6 for, you know, many reasons. And uh so but because it had kind of a tortured development which involved like a handoff from one person designing it to another
Yes.
at one point. The second designer, who I believe was Scott Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
cut out a segment that would contain all of the information to solve a puzzle. And
Yes.
so they didn't realize that this information, and and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the Space Quest expert.
They call
But
me the Space Quest historian.
oh, is that true?
That's what they used to call me.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, uh, maybe I'll call you SQH for short.
Yes.
But when they realized that this information was missing, they were like, it's in the manual now. It's copy protection. What's
Yes.
the story that you like to tell about this?
Well, later on, when Sierra published the Space Quest collection that included Space Quest 6, they once again forgot that this was a copy protection. I mean, it's wild, first of all, that the development was such a mess that you could cut out a section of the game that was necessary for its completion. And everyone on the project was so just discombobulated that that kind of sailed by without anybody noticing it until the last minute. But yeah, when they when they released the Space Quest collection with Space Quest 6, it did not include the necessary copy protection. So now everyone who bought that collection can't complete Space Quest 6. And of course, at the time, I was running a Space Quest fan site. And that meant I was getting every day, I would say 5 or 6 people emailing me, asking me for the
That's
solution
a
to
lot
this
of
puzzle.
emails.
That's a lot of emails. I mean, for 1997,
Yeah.
that's a fair bit of email, and I was just constantly having to reply. At first, I replied, "I can't help you with that because it's copy protection." But then when I realized Sierra had screwed up, I started emailing people the solutions, and then eventually I put it on my website. And Sierra asked me not to do that, and I took it off the website. And then I waited a few years and just put it back up. And it's just a silly puzzle that ended up in the manual, the Popular Janitronics manual, which lately I've been calling. Somehow my brain has overwritten Popular Janitronics with what I believe to be a funnier joke. I think in my head every time I start talking about this manual that it's Popular Genitalia, which I think is a much funnier
That's
title.
pretty good.
Yeah, Popular Genitalia I think needs to be used somewhere.
They Space Quest really needed Al Lowe to come in there and do a little punch up.
Yeah,
That if Al was in the room, that's exactly what would have happened.
yeah. I mean, that would have been like the subtitle of the game. No, forget Spinal Frontier.
Or wherein was it Corporal Santiago
Yes,
is
is
Roger
Roger
Wilco.
Wilco. That's a long walk.
I think that's a funny name. I'm on. I think that's a funny name. I
Yeah.
know
Hey,
Josh hated, or not Josh. I know Scott hated that.
Scott.
I think that
Yeah.
was a funny name.
While we're picking fights with Sierra fans, we've already sort of said that Leisure Suit Larry sold more hint books than it did copies, which gets reported as fact all the time. I want to take this moment to speak to the people editing like the Sierra fan wikis out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say to them, you guys are reporting the idea that Space Quest 7, had it been made, was going to be subtitled The Return to Roman Numerals. And that's simply a ridiculous claim. There's no way that was going to be the actual name of that game. And wiki editors, you need to realize that was a joke. It was never real. I know it was printed in the collection manual somewhere. That wasn't real. They weren't going to call Space Quest 7 The Return to Roman Numerals.
Yeah, that's obviously a joke, and
That's obviously a joke.
obviously a joke that is because you could say well, it's a comedy series, of course it's a joke, but but that's not what the joke titles the
No,
Spinal Frontier, that's a joke title kind of.
technically.
But that relates. Return to Roman Numerals is both a joke that you just kind of say, and also a working title when you don't really have a game. You have this sketched out idea of this impossible multiplayer game that was never going to be made.
Right. That just gives you some reason to come to work as your company is being sold to a phone card company and collapsing all around you.
Yeah, when the your CEO has sold you out to a guy who uh, like was subject to like a catastrophic series of like lawsuits and all that sort of stuff. Very interesting. I've read that story like 3 or 4 different times, written by 3 or 4 different people, and it is like frustrating and fascinating every time. The most recent, of course, it was written on the Digital Antiquarian. So if you're unfamiliar with the Fall of Sierra, uh, you could look up the Digital Antiquarian, and Jimmy there just wrote like his version of this. But it is such a fascinating, what a miserable way for like this big company to go out. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
like, because it could have just been as easy as like, oh, they put all of their money in like the Sierra network, which they did lose a lot of money on the Sierra
Mm-hmm.
network.
But that's
And
not
it
what killed them.
like and like ultimately the debt from that just killed them, or they put too much money in their like huge FMV studio,
Mhm.
and like that killed them, or like they spent all their money on like like a bunch of normal things, but
They bought the
instead,
rights to remake ET for the Atari
yeah,
2600. Yeah.
like, but instead that it like goes out in like this like Wolf of Wall Street style story
Well, just
that,
earlier today, I was reading an old issue of Interaction magazine because I live the adventure game lifestyle
yeah,
24/7,
yeah,
and it was Ken Williams's editorial in the issue talking about how CUC had just bought um, Sierra and how everything was not only going to be the same as it ever was, but actually better. And it was this very, very wonderful. And you get the feeling from reading Ken's own book that he had immediate misgivings about this, like not long after it happened. Like once he started realizing he was like no longer had a seat at the big table and some things like that. But
yeah.
yeah, no, but I mean, this is getting far
Yeah,
afield from copy
I
protection.
have another example of copy protection via like accident.
Okay.
Which is that Beverly Hillbillies came with an entire walkthrough because it's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, can you make such a bad game that, yeah, by necessity, you have to package a walkthrough with it? And does that become copy protection? If your game
I
is
think
so
that's copy
inscrutable,
protection, because if you can solve that fucking, like, really any of it. If you can solve the um like driving to Beverly Hills
mhm.
puzzle, which we talked about in an earlier podcast, like you deserve to, like, you paid your admission.
If you can solve Beverly Hillbillies without any sort of help, you should be locked into a plexiglass prison underground like Magneto was in the X-Men games and have your food slid to you through a little slot every day because you're a dangerous individual who should not be part of society.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was all I had down. Did you have any other kind of memorable?
Well, I mean, I did think a little bit, the idea of consequences if you don't get copy protection correct. Sometimes there's fun
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like
Oh yeah.
Zach McCracken throws you into pirate jail if you enter in
That's
some
right.
of
That's
the
right.
plane codes, the exit codes correctly. Gold Rush, I think, accuses you of claim jumping and sentences you to the gallows if you get it wrong. I think you may have to enter debug mode to do this in King's Quest 4, but in the AGI version, there is a screen where if you put in the wrong code, a pirate pops up and it sings or it plays the song "What Do You Do with a Drunken Sailor" and says "Yo ho ho, you're a pirate" and kicks you out of the game. I think that does have to be in debug mode to make that one happen. Star Trek 25th does the bit where you have to have coordinates to jump around to the various planets and stuff.
Yeah.
If you enter the wrong coordinates, it drops you into a space battle with Romulans or Klingons or pirates or something like
Yeah.
that. So
And there's
sometimes, like,
nothing less fun than the combat in that game. So it's a
that's right.
real
That is a punishment.
fucking
Yeah.
punishment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You've definitely been punished at that point. So I think the idea of having consequences attached to these can be kind of fun.
The
Yeah, I
Zach
do.
McCracken jail is actually a pretty funny. Like you get
Yeah,
scolded by the game for a while for stealing it, which is
mhm,
honestly pretty funny.
yeah. You know, I've recently, as you know, been playing on my stream just as of last night.
Yeah. What game?
Another fine capstone product, the L.A. Law computer game, the adaptation of
Right.
the classic 80s 90s legal drama, and it kind of has like the most boring, frustrating kind of copy protection, which is to say, most of the legal work you do in this game is making phone calls to people to ask them questions.
Oh, so is the phone like is
It's just phone directory. And it's a
right.
phone directory that you're referencing, I would say, every 2 to 3 minutes of gameplay.
Oh,
So it's just like a constant. It's a phone directory with like, I don't know, 60 or 70 names in it. So it's just that sort of, I'm always having to go back to. I mean, Codename Iceman's kind of like that too. If you're piloting the ship and figuring out all the procedures and everything like that, there's going to
like
be a
Blue
lot of,
Force.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean that I always feel like is a little bit of a bummer. And, you know, I did think about like gold standard ones for me. I mentioned before, Grail Diary,
Hmm.
one of my all-time favorites. Secret of Monkey Island Code Wheel. I
Code
bought
wheels are
Monkey.
fun. They were
Yeah,
cute.
I bought Secret of Monkey Island at a Sears and Roebuck, like an hour away from my house. That ride home, trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do with that code wheel, having no context for it whatsoever. I'd never seen a code wheel in another game before. I'm just sitting in the back seat of my parents' Oldsmobile, and I'm just spinning that thing around. No idea
Getting in the
what
back
it's
of
going to do.
an Oldsmobile was so cool. Like those were
Oh man, it was like
comfortable.
almost like velveteen seats. It
I
was, yeah,
I was in when I was in college, I road tripped in an Oldsmobile
yeah.
and
Like 4 adults can lay down in the back seat of one of those
there
things. It's
were there were five of us.
yeah.
Five 20 like 19 and 20-year olds and like it was so like spacious and comfortable. It was like it was that was such a nice car.
It
Like
was.
that
Smooth
was
ride because it weighed like 9 tons,
it
of
did
pure American
it
skill.
was so smooth. This is and if you're purchasing an Oldsmobile, use Quest 5 at the dealer. It was such
Just
a
say that.
smooth
Just yell it at them
right. Quest 5.
at the Oldsmobile
Yeah.
dealership.
Yeah, you have to the copy protection for this is you have to find an Oldsmobile dealership.
Yes.
Uh
And then say, "This isn't your father's Oldsmobile. Quest 5, wink." And they'll know we sent you.
yeah.
But no, I mean, that was wonderful as a kid, like just spinning that thing around and not knowing how it was going to be used. I didn't even know it was copy protection. I was just like, what in the world? It's like, it's easy to line up which faces go with what, but what am I going to use that for? You know, that one's fun. One of my all-time favorites that we didn't mention here, and I know, Ben, this is one that you care about deeply as well. The Freddie Farkas Frontier
Oh,
Pharmacist
that's
manual.
one of the few pieces of
Mhm.
adventure game ephemera that I have, like on the
the
shelf behind me. I
Yeah,
have
the modern day book of health and hygiene.
so that I would put as I don't know if I would call that puzzle involved or story involved because they are like it's a little bit of both. What I would say about that is I'm not a huge fan of the actual interface of like mixing the like
No, it's not
like
the best.
the medicine. It's like it's just a little too touchy. There's so much stuff
Mhm.
involved. It's very like I appreciate it. I think it's a like an interesting idea. I just don't think it's a lot of fun.
No,
But
I will agree.
the manual like has a lot of good jokes because I'm pretty sure it was written by Josh Mandel who wrote a lot of great jokes. Josh, the door is open to be on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, Josh, this is Josh all the way. It's fantastic. I mean, if you don't know this manual, it's used to solve some of the puzzles where you're having to do pharmacy work in the game. So it's mostly a list of various medicinal products with descriptions of what they do, and a lot of those have fun little gags in them. And then a list of common ailments, and all this is written like frontier medicine, and it's just wonderful. Like if you want to hear, descriptions of conditions like choking or constipation
Yeah.
or flatulence and how to test for that. That's one of the puzzles in the game. It has as a kid, I thought the description of pregnancy as a medical condition was particularly funny. I have that here.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah, please
quote
read it.
Josh Mandel. In this list of common ailments, pregnancy, quote, a temporary, usually non fatal condition involving a parasitic embryo, a host female, and a disinterested third party, usually a father. The embryo attaches itself inside the uterus and feeds off the female's blood and other bodily fluids, growing very rapidly, much like a tapeworm, only rounder. Fortunately, the parasite usually detaches itself. See kidney stones for a description of the pain involved in this process within 8 to 9 months, after which its parasitic tendencies become largely financial in nature. Fortunately, we now know that pregnancy is entirely preventable simply by staying home on Friday and Saturday nights. I'm here for that. Again, as a young teen getting a hold of the Freddie Farkas manual for the first time, this was just a treasure trove of fun comedy for me. And again, the puzzle it ties into, yeah, it's fiddly. It's not real fun.
You know
I mean,
what
it's
is
diegetic. You should
speaking
do some
of
pharmacy work.
failed copy protection is the messages that people, because the first thing you do in the game, or one of the first things that you do, is mix a couple medications for people, and like them coming back and saying like, I tried your medicine and I still have this problem. It's always a funny joke.
Yeah.
Like it's always like a pretty good joke of, it's like I still have hemorrhoids, and in fact, and then they go on to describe something.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's a good one. Those are three of my all-time favorites. Ben, are there any that like really stand out for you?
I mean, I loved the guide to the Green Isles in
Mm-hmm.
King's Quest 6. Like the logic cliffs, I could take or leave them. But the manual itself, and again, like I think like having that and having it like kind of as an external like way of connecting with the game, I thought was pretty neat, and I still think it's pretty neat. So
I just think
that's
it's
a favorite.
neat.
I just think they're neat. All right. Well, we've said everything that you possibly can say about about copy protection,
About Quest.
about Quest. This was our final episode.
Wow, Ben, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, folks. I'm gonna do the last best Farscape podcast next.
Puppets.
It's a great show. Um,
Mm,
have you seen it?
I tried, like when it was on.
It's a it's a grower, not a shower. The first season's a little slow. This is.
It's a Muppet-based grower, not a Muppet-based shower.
I mean, honestly, it is a very horny show that has Muppets in it. So sure,
That's like any Muppet show, though.
yeah. I mean, once that sexy pig gets involved,
Oh man,
but
I mean, we've talked about her before on the
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, we have. But
Ben, did you know that later this week they're shutting down Muppet Vision 3D at Hollywood Studios at the Walt Disney Resort in Orlando, Florida?
you know, I've never like that. So this is because they announced this like months ago, right?
Yeah, I'm
Because I remember
furious.
everybody. You're furious.
I'm furious.
Where are they replacing it with?
I think a Monsters Inc. attraction.
Oh,
So
we
I have
haven't
to
had
hear
anything Monsters
Billy
Inc. in a
Goddamn
while
Crystal.
either.
I know.
Like, have we? Like, why? I mean, I guess
kids don't
you.
understand the Muppets anymore.
Yeah.
Kids
Well, has
today.
there? Well, it's not even a kids today thing. Like, has there been like a truly great Muppet thing in a
Did you
while?
watch the Muppet Show that was like an office workplace comedy
I
that came out
watched
like
a
a
little
few years
bit
ago?
of it, and it wasn't great.
It is fair.
It like my understanding of it was that like it sounded like they were maybe trying to figure it out towards the end, like it was one of
It got
those.
better. But
But
yeah, I mean, yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, the Muppet batting average, like, remarkably basic take. The Muppet batting average never was ever the same after Jim. Like, like
Mhm.
this is a pretty basic opinion. uh and like I love Christmas Carol, and if this isn't to say that there haven't been good Muppet things since Jim Henson passed away.
Well, listen how quickly Ben's backpedaling on this. Ben states a hot take, and he's like,
Well, hold
"Oh,
on.
Muppet fans, don't at me, bro."
Well, yeah, you don't want to get on their bad side.
No.
And but also I mean there's like Farscape, which I had said already, and that's a post Jim project. Brian is involved in that. And Farscape is great. Does have a slow first season. It is a grower, not a shower. Yeah, do you see a full
Quit saying that.
it's a grower, not a shower.
Ah,
You see a big Muppet boner.
that's a lot of felt.
Yeah, and then it becomes a tiny flaccid. All right. Well, anyway, this is Quest. Our final episode, last best Farscape podcast, coming up after this.
With a new co-host. The good news is,
No,
yeah, I'll be gone.
if we're gonna no, it's still gonna be the two of us.
Oh no! Oh
I'm
no!
dragging Jess into watching Farscape with me, and he's gonna watch it Clockwork Orange style until he fucking likes it. I've got the eyedropper and the thing that opens up his eyes. I always hated that scene, not because of any particular like, oh, this is inhumane, but like eye shit always makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you wear contacts?
No, and I never
There
will.
you go.
Like,
No, you
I
shouldn't.
think we had
That's
this conversation on this podcast, even maybe.
you probably did. Yeah.
But anyway, please rate and review. Watch us on YouTube and Twitch, Decaf Jedi and PS_Garrick. Emails at questpodcast@gmail.com. Any favorite copy protection or anything like that. And
Or if you could just email me how to solve the data quarter puzzle, I would appreciate it.
yeah, because actually
Because
Jess has never gotten that far in Space Quest 6.
yeah, I just peter out before I get to that point.
Yeah. And I Roger through. And now join us next week where you'll have to go to page 5, paragraph 3, and word 27. We'll see you there.